lovelies! I recently just got back from a European excursion. I promise to never use that voice ever again. But anyway, I went with the group from school, which at first I was a little wary of this idea because I'm not really one that does well with people from school. I just that's not my game. But I figured that if Lizzie McGuire can do it, by all means, so can I. But I went to Ireland, Wales, London, and Paris, and it was fantastic. But it definitely did bring to my attention how important it is to understand other cultures. Because in Ireland, Wales, and London, everyone was happy and fine, and I think a large part of that is because their cultures are pretty similar to ours. Everything was good until we got to Paris. Now I think a big factor of this was that it was near the end of our trip. We were all very sleep deprived, tired. We'd been around each other for a long time. But I seem to be the only person that genuinely really enjoyed Paris, and I think a large part of that is because I speak the language and I've studied their culture. A lot of people in my group, they were just so frustrated by how rude the Parisians were, which I know that's a huge stereotype, but I honestly did not have a bad experience with any of them. And I think that's largely attested to the fact that I went up to them, I spoke French as best as I could, and if they spoke too fast or I didn't understand them, I would say in French, I'm sorry, I'm American, may you please speak slower. And they were very compliant and very happy to help me understand what they were saying. Everyone in my group was just very frustrated because they couldn't speak their native tongue, which I totally understand that is frustrating. But when you travel places, you should still be able to stay true to your own culture and have your own beliefs and still feel like you have your identity still. But you should also have an understanding that you are traveling in order to learn a new culture. You are traveling to experience how other people live and what their lives are like. And it is hard to kind of get used to a new culture when you are constantly being targeted as a tourist. Now, my favorite story that I think just kind of exemplifies what I've been trying to get across, we were taking the metro back to our hotel on our last night in Paris. And it was all of us in one cabin and then one Parisian man. And at first he just looked like, dear God, what in the world did I do to deserve to be stuck in this car full of American teenagers? What? Forgive me for I have sinned. I'm so sorry. Please stop punishing me. And then he just started looking amused, and then he'd flip back and forth. And then one girl, she started talking about Snapchatting and making all of these ugly faces that she could make. And one of our chaperones, she thought that was called twerking. We didn't have the heart to tell her that twerking something completely different, but it sort of turned into a game where we'd all just chant twerk, twerk, twerk. And then we'd go around and each make a horrific face, really. I mean, it was just awful. And the guy over in the corner, he, again, looked pissed off yet amused. So after a certain point of, everyone's gone around and we're just, still yelling twerk, because, we're Americans, I shout over to the man, I'm like, twerk, twerk, twerk. And he looks up from his paper, and he just looks then he looks back. And then all of a sudden, he just goes "Wah!" None of us expected that at all. My teacher ended up in my lap. She was so startled because she thought he was going to attack us. So this video may have been entirely so I could tell that story, but that's kind of beside the point because I think it's really important that we understand the importance of understanding each other's cultures when we go to these places, because it just makes everything a lot more enjoyable and more fun and just all around better. So yeah, I think as the soundtrack to this has proven, it is important to remember that the same rain falls on all of us. In case you wanted to see that face again, it was more like "Rah!" Even that noise, it was like a pterodactyl was just coming out of his mother. Okay, I'm gonna stop.